at Minds of Money in London, and I'm joined by Jayant Bhandari, analyst at Anorco Capital. Jayant won the Best Speech Award earlier this year at Minds of Money in Asia, and last night you shared it with us. I want to hear why India cannot be the next China. Share it with us.
Thanks for having me here, Rachel. The reality is that if you look at very basic primary school level math numbers, you realize that the difference between China and India is so huge that there is no hope for India to become the next China. For example, the populations of two countries are comparable, but Chinese GDP is more than 5 times the GDP of India, which means that if China grows by only the so-called only 6.3%, China is still growing by $550 per person GDP on a per capita basis, whereas India at 7.5% would grow only at about $130 US on a per capita basis. So India has no hope, even in the lifetimes of my grandchildren, to catch up with China.
Now talk to us about, the difference between growth and growth rate.
So, Rachel, it's amazing that so many people, even in the international media and economists, think that when the growth rate is high, it means that growth is high. Right. And these are growth rate and growth are completely different concepts, so completely different that there's no relationship at all. As I was saying, with $9,000 per capita GDP in China, 6.3 growth rate translates into $550 per person of growth every year. Whereas in India, 7.5% growth rate translates into a mere $130 US per year per person. So it's growth rate and growth are completely different things, and you have to, when people say that China is slowing, the reality is China is not slowing. It is still growing, but it is the rate of growth is falling, and this is a complete difference of definitions.
Right. But your opposition may say, but India has a very young population. There's still potential there. What is your response to that?
India has a very young population, which is seen as a demographic asset for that country. The reality is that a large number of Indians cannot write their own names. And I'm talking about Indians who have graduated from schools.
But you grew up in India. You were born there. What are some things that you've heard from other people that you have to go up against?
India is a very diverse country. So people, it's fortunately until now has not been collectivized into a homogeneous entity. The result is that India has survived becoming a banana republic, unlike what happened in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, which are homogeneous countries. But now, actually, India is becoming a homogeneous country under the umbrella of nationalism. The thread of nationalism is weaving the country together. Nationalism is increasing, which is also helping Hindu fanaticism from increasing, and this will lead to India becoming a banana republic very rapidly, in my view. Most of this synchronous growth, in my view, that happened in the emerging markets happened because of internet. They were able to transfer the technology very cheaply and very rapidly. The result is that these countries that have historically depended themselves on Western technology could bring that technology very rapidly, and now those low-hanging fruit have been plucked, and most of these countries are now stagnating. One thing is very important, Rachel, that there's a big difference between the cultures of the Western societies and cultures outside the West. Western society is based on the concept of reason. Most of these societies outside the West, and I'm talking particularly about India here, is an extremely superstitious and irrational society, which means that they don't have their own creativity. They don't have their critical thinking. They don't have the reasoning capacities. So once they have absorbed the free gift of technology from the West, they will stagnate. There is no other possibility for these people.
Right. Well, lastly, at the Mines and Money in London, one of the topics was, can India be the next big mining industry? Obviously, you'd like to disagree. Can you go on some points on that?
Well, Indian government never does anything right, and doing business is almost impossible in India. I have met businessmen in India last week, and they were telling me that they are closing down their business because the government is becoming extremely rapacious and more corrupt and very heavy-handed. Now, mining industry actually makes the situation much worse than for the normal industry, because the property rights and the local issues come into play as well. So mining industry is not going to develop in India anytime soon, really.
All right.
And I have no hopes for the mining industry in India.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for everything you shared with us.
Thanks for having me, Rachel.
At Mines and Money in London, I'm Rachel Leigh for Small Cap Power.